All right. We're live. All right. Okay, so good morning and welcome to Pumping Iron, Pumping Valves. My name is Dr. Danny Chapa, and I know this isn't probably the most formal presentation you've seen, but I've tried to look and dress the part, and let's go ahead and get started. Oh, the clicker works great. Also, since we don't want this in our way, there we go. So let's just jump right in. First, I want to just thank TJC for sponsoring my trip here and for supporting me, and I really wouldn't be here without the opportunities I have at Tyler Junior College. I have given you all my business card, and that's if you have any questions about anything in the presentation. If you'd like further resources, you can reach out to me, and appreciate y'all. Let me know if you have any questions. So second, I want to also thank, before we go any further, our conference host, Dr. Vince Kinney, but also these people right here that are working all these extra hours. Let's go ahead and give them a round of applause. Oh, there he is. Yeah. So we wanted to, before we get started, we just wanted to say thank you all, because this is a lot of extra work that you have to put in for us to be able to come together and to have such a great time having recitals and classes like these. So without further ado, let's jump into the presentation. And before we begin, I just want to make some clarification because of the language with the title and the implications that you'll see. It's not necessarily a bodybuilding class, like you're going to show up and figure out how to become a bodybuilder and practicer. It's not like that. We are not going to be bodybuilders. At least I'm not advocating you all. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. Don't take steroids, right? So instead, we're going to not be, but observe the world of bodybuilding. Observe and draw comparisons to how it relates to our world of practicing and preparing for competitions. For example, there's one going on right now. One missed rhythm, or one wrong note, or one wrong fingering, or response issue, or whatever, can equate to one wrong pose or one wrong transition between poses in a live bodybuilding competition. I mean, they have a performance stage too. So there's just too many similarities to not take a kind of investigative approach here. So that's part one is observation, and then part two is application. So I do want to talk a little bit about, yes, breaking down some terms, looking at big picture things with what people do in practice rooms versus in the gym, and talking about routines. But also I want to talk about some practical things that we can take with us to actually help us with the kinesthetic part of playing, hand position, not grabbing your horn at an odd angle, pulling a muscle, and being able to do something about that. Shoulder issues, things like that. So that'll be covered in the application of physical therapy. And then we're going to talk briefly about performing versus posing and those two art forms. And then obviously the last one is something that I want you all to take with you, and that's the power of application. So we have what's called, I call it practice power. Think about how devoted you are to learning solos, scales, fundamentals, etudes, all those things. No matter what level you are, you have some sort of energy that allows you to be successful at something. So why not apply it to something that's beneficial to you? So it can be fitness, which is our objective today, potentially. But more importantly, it's to think outside of just playing euphonium or just playing tuba. So to give you all an example, one of my big things that I got into before working at TJC was web coding. So I took my practice power, my attention to detail and determination, and I learned HTML and Java, and I just took the practice approach where I would make websites and they're okay at first, but then I would practice and it would get better. So right now, if we could all just take out a pencil, if you don't have one, maybe borrow one. I've got a couple in my bag if you need one. And I'd like you to write down one thing that you can apply. Just think, if I had took the energy I have to practice, and I know we're on pencil hunts, it's okay. So if you could just write down one thing that you would take from the practice room to somewhere else in your life. It doesn't have to be, obviously not bodybuilding, it doesn't have to be fitness or diet, but what's one thing? And if you already have something up here, can you just raise your hand? And if if I get no bites, I'll just move ahead. What's up?
Discipline.
Discipline, okay, just in general?
Consistency, doing it, the routine.
Okay, sure. Okay, of practicing. Okay, nice, awesome. Any others?
Trusting the process.
Okay, and that takes practice. Sure. Okay, what else?
Time management.
Time management. Oh, good. yeah, so it's okay to think outside of just practice and just exercise and that kind of stuff. So just think, I think, and also with the knowledge that we'll have, that'll give us some power to make some informed decisions. Okay, so let me just go over my one and only citation, and that is the Arnold book, as they're called, the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. This version that I have is a PDF version that's out of print, but if you're interested in purchasing it, you can. The only difference between the old version and the new one is that there's less pictures, older pictures, and they don't talk about steroids. So, because, don't do that. But that was a thing that people did. So anytime I mention the Arnold book, this is the book that I'm referencing. Okay, this is the encyclopedia. So let's jump into it. So why bodybuilding? Well, yeah, tubas are heavy. I just bought a tuba recently, and I noticed there's a lot of back muscles that are a little bit more involved. And of course, if you have smaller students or young college students that are having issues, or anybody who's having any kind of shoulder or back issues, obviously this will help. Military band auditions have weight requirements, and that's actually been one of the main reasons I've been able to do workouts on a consistent basis, because I was going for an audition. So then I would have to spend time at the gym to meet that element of job requirement. Obviously, you can save a lot of money with insurance, not having to go to the doctor as much. But I think the most important benefit is up here. And I have a lot of students that are depressed, and I have a lot of students that suffer from anxiety. And a lot of those students take medication, which have side effects, and then they take medication to counter those side effects. But then and so it's like a domino. And I had one student have up to like seven meds a day. And I think a lot of the chemicals that we're missing, we can create on our own by getting sunlight, by getting fresh air, by getting counseling, by getting into the gym and getting exercise. So that's part of our thing that we have to do as musicians, but to figure out how to make this work so that we can be functional and healthy. And a little confidence boost, but then obviously that's the last one is number 4, our fourth objective, and that's application. So the next term I want to go over now, or this is our first term, I guess, is body sculpting. So this is essentially cause and effect 101. And I just want you all to think about this as an art form. Okay, so you're basically making a living statue, and it's done from an external point of view, right? So we're working on our body as if it was a piece of art, and then you put that on display, and that whole performance thing is a whole other part. But this is basically the fundamentals. Is every exercise serves a purpose. Everything you do in the practice room is going to affect the way you sound, right? Everything you do in the gym is going to affect the way you look. So one example that I have is tone sculpting. So this is basically like doing a routine. You do a set of exercises and to accomplish a goal, right? And how you do it will determine the outcome, right? So long tones, some slurs, and I did say slow motion on purpose. We'll talk about that in a second. Tunes, repertoire, meaning like etudes and solos. Anybody have any other things they do to work on tone quality?
Mouthpiece buzzing.
Yeah, sure. Anything else? There's a lot.
Half valve.
Half valve. So resistance, we can call that resistance training, because you're creating resistance. You have to work a little bit harder, and we do that at the gym too. Awesome. Anything else? I mean, I know I covered a lot of big categories here already, and it's also 10 a.m. At the tuba conference. All right, so it's fair enough. Other topics we'll get into is strength training, like the idea of maxing out your tonguing speed, getting it up to above like 150, get into the double tonguing range, getting your slurs under control, slow motion slurs, speed-based versus endurance-based exercises. And then the most important thing of all, no matter what you do, you got to give yourself time to rest, whether it's physically or mentally. And the outline here we're going to follow is essentially laugh is my warm-up routine, long tones, articulation, fingers, flexibility. That's on the beginning of your handout there. And then the rest of it is comparisons. We're going to group each of these categories with a body area, and then kind of dissect some exercises to do. Then we'll talk about performing versus practice and poses, and then we'll talk about how we can practically and logically apply this to our own lives, like apply exercise, or apply whatever into our daily routine. Basically just thinking about a way we can better ourselves. So here it is broken down one at a time. So the long tones, tone, basically, but I can't say tone because then I can't laugh, right? So it's got to be an L for the long tones, but it represents tone quality, and that's going to be the chest and core area. You can also think about the back muscles in there. Articulation, obviously, is legs. So you can go running fast, slow, endurance versus speed. And then also squats, meaning you have a number and you want to get that number higher in the gym, just like you get the articulation number higher on the metronome. Then we have fingers and forearms. That's where we're going to do some actual physical therapy things to help with hand stretches. And then flexibility, there's a great visual representation of doing slow motion slurs. All right, so here's a little demonstration since I'll be doing, I guess, all the playing, but if you have your horn, you're welcome to play along too. I know, right? Everybody's gonna err and figure, I'm just kidding. So this is what I want you to think of when you're hearing somebody play for the first time, whether it's for a competition or just a recital. When we listen to people, we hear a total package, but then from that total package you can break down into components. This is just simply at a fundamentals level, but you can also think about interpretation, dynamics, and all these other parts. But the idea is that you want to be well-rounded, especially notice that the tone is kind of like the main centerpiece, just like that's our main selling point as musicians is our tone quality. So this is a very important picture because it represents all the different facets, areas that you had to spend time in the gym working on, and spend time in the practice room working on these things to where you are well-rounded. So what I want to do is a little demonstration. So I'm going to play 2 examples, and I want you to close your eyes and think about what this person would look like based on what you hear. Okay. So I'm going to do a scale and arpeggio. Okay. So everybody close your eyes and imagine what does this person look like? Okay, open your eyes. So think about, like, okay, is that like a big, or maybe he's kind of flat chested, he's kind of scrawny, isn't using a lot of air support, right? Okay, well, we'll do that one more time, obviously, and so maybe he spent some time in the gym, and maybe he sounds a little bit different. You don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to. So that sound represents maybe somebody with a little bit more developed tone. But I think that's how we should listen to people. That's, I'm not telling you what to do, but I think that's one way to listen to somebody is a total package standpoint, and then from there you can break down individual body parts. So let's talk about our first big group, and that's chest. This is the core and chest area, and that is Franco Columbu. And in the gym, I would do these exercises on the right. In the practice room, I would do the exercises on the left. And remember, the most important thing is that we are creating routines for ourselves, and we know what exactly I need to do to get better at this category. How does my chest look when I play? Well, how do you look at yourself when you play? You record yourself, right? So you can observe it, or you play for others, right? So if I was going to go to the gym to work on my chest, I would use the mirror to see, okay, well, what do I want, first of all? And then I would do flat press, incline, decline, and flies. Flat press and bench press is basically, I think, that's coming up soon. It's where you're laying your back. I think that's kind of what we all generally know. That's the very default workout routine, but then you can kind of sit up for the incline, or you could be laying back at a downward angle for decline. So if you want any more information about specifics with exercises, you have the back of your handout, you have a QR code. For the bottom line, see that it has the little weights, the little weight symbols there. Then you can do a QR code and go to different websites to give you workout routines. We'll go in more detail because we're going to kind of skip over this with our presentation today. But the most important thing is that we are doing all these things to work and refine our tone in this situation, okay? And the result is you develop that area, right, which is tone quality. But those are pectoral muscles. We're not going to learn all the crazy muscle parts, but I think that it's important to have a great understanding. And again, if you want technical information, you got your handout you can reference. So let's continue. This exercise will be done on Saturday at 8 a.m. this week. I was asked to do a warm-up class, so we're gonna talk about it today. We're actually gonna do these exercises on Saturday, so there'll be a lot more playing if you want to come. I don't remember what room is are the warm-ups in. On the spot. Check the schedule. It's all right. She'll get to us anyway. So this is an example of having a partner drill. So when you're practicing fundamentals, I don't know if we ever did this for those of you who went through your undergraduates. Did you ever have like hangouts with your friends and you would practice fundamentals together? You do like scales and rounds and stuff like that. We have practice parties, but I just worked on fundamentals with friends, and it was a fun way to push each other. We would try to see how fast we can go with the tonguing speed and challenge each other with ranges, but we'd also do a lot of tuning exercises together. They're super important, and I think the idea transfers very well to having a workout buddy at the gym, because then it allows you to go beyond your comfort zone. Like, I'm worried about lifting this much weight because it might crush me. So if somebody's there to spot me, then I'm able to push myself. And maybe self-consciously you're worried about the way you sound, and someone's like, no man, just go for it. Just use the air, it's gonna be fine. And then you have that freedom to take it to the next level. So there you go. And here is the bench press, if you've never seen it or know what it is. You basically just do this for chest at a lot of different angles with like dumbbells and things like that. Again, all that information we can go over after the presentation. The next area we want to do is the core, our center here, abs, and this is related to soft playing. So since we don't have instruments, I do want you all to do something, some sort of physical activity. Didn't have enough time to have you do all the movements. I did have that program in there, but to save time, we're just gonna have you do some basic stuff. So if we can all just take our index finger, right hand or left hand, doesn't matter, and put it about 1 hand length away from your face, okay? Yeah. This hand length, this one. Yeah, this is good. All right, so blow air at your finger. Okay, everybody can do that, right? Now imagine that there's a candle on your finger and you're trying to blow air at it. Don't blow out the candle, just let the flame flicker. Right, so I love teaching my students how to play soft because there's a physical feeling that's attached to it. And so just remember, we can take advantage of the exercises we do, physical exercises we do, we can compare them to playing soft, because what we did when you're feeling that, like you're doing a sit-up kind of feel, is called air support, okay? It's air support, and with a small hole, you can control the soft dynamics much easier than if you're trying to play out. So I'm gonna play just a little selection here. Now this is something, Dave, if you wanna play rounds with me, you can, since you're the only one that bought your horn. But it's so far away, it's okay, don't worry. I wouldn't do that to you. We haven't started the workout yet. So I'll just play through this one time, just at a soft dynamic. Just know that, come to a warm-up class so we can do more of this stuff together. But essentially we're just demonstrating that soft playing is like doing a sit-up. I have my students do that. They have to learn that in various keys. I have them do 4 keys at the beginning of the semester and then 4 keys at the end of the semester. But I love this tune because it can work well in rounds, because you can start 2 measures in, have somebody else come in. So if you want to have a round party after this, we can play some rounds. But in this room, it seems like there's a different kind of rounds that should be going on. Anyway. All right, moving ahead. Our next area is articulation. So we're going to highlight the legs. So again, those are basically your quadriceps. This is the front part of your leg, and the hamstring is the back part of your leg. On the top and then the bottom part here is the calf muscles. Again, we're just sticking to the basics because we're musicians. We don't necessarily have to know all the technical muscles, but when you break down the legs with articulation, you break it down into single tonguing, high range, low range, middle range, double tonguing, triple tonguing, and a whole bunch of other things, right? Style, that's where we're not even getting into that. Those might be the smaller muscles that connect other things, right? So the idea, again, is the same. We have a set of exercises that work out a particular area. So we're using the legs for this example. And the idea of maxing out is so important. And what I do, this is something you might want to write down if you want to have an experiment with your students. I love doing blind metronome tests for students. So what I'll do is, maybe I'll have a volunteer, and I want you to give me a number between, and we'll do some exercises, okay? I trust that you know how to use tonal energy.
I think so.
He's a friend of mine. okay? Just in case you're, why are you being mean to this random person here? So we'll do a blind metronome test here in just a second, but essentially someone else controls the metronome and you just have to go. It's like, I mean, you don't want to do this with heavy weights, but if you maybe had like lighter weights, you could blindfold yourself and then try to do some sort of exercise and you just have to go for it. That's the idea. I want you to experiment with your kids to see what you can fool them into realizing, hey, you can actually tongue a lot faster than you thought you could. Every time I do this, they always go 10, 15 clicks faster because they hear a number and then they instantly think I have to be this level to hit that number. And you just have to try it. You know, you can't cut yourself off before you try it, right? So before we do this, let's just go over the ground rules with articulation, or at least these are just some of my ground rules. You want to make sure you know what you're doing, right? Because every cause has an effect, right? Every time you work on something, it has an effect, but how much you do will affect whether it's going to be this benefit or that benefit. So we're going to talk about speed versus endurance. Being well-rounded, low, middle, high. And of course, when you play these, you want to play them long and loud. And it would be great if you use the rhythms that are in your solo, especially if they're weird rhythms or odd rhythms. They become familiar with repetition, so you might as well put them on a tonguing pattern on a scale and have yourself warm up that way. So I used to run a lot when I was in high school and most of college. So speed versus endurance, I did a little bit of the speed, but I did mostly distance running. But essentially, the shorter distances you go with the higher intensity means you want a quick break, okay? And with longer distances, you maybe want to go a little slower, right? So how does this relate to articulation? Well, just think about the straightaway as just 4 notes. And oh my goodness. And then the round part of the track is where you would walk, and that's a quarter note. Da 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 da. Okay, and so that can obviously go a lot faster because you have rest. Versus something like that's going to be on the lower one because more 16th notes means it's more of an endurance exercise. So basically more means endurance, less means speed, especially if you follow those exercises with quarter notes. Da 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 da. It's the equivalent, in my opinion, of walking a little bit and then sprinting, and then walking a little bit and sprinting, obviously done at a much faster rate because it's all up in this area. And then obviously if you run, you can increase your lung capacity, your longer phrases, your sound is more well supported, playing the tuba is a lot easier. And there's a lot of other obvious benefits that we all know about. But here is a really important concept for everyone to grasp. It's very simple. Especially when you have students that are not quite sure, well, am I doing it right? Am I practicing enough? Well, just give them 3 basic categories: low, middle, high. So what can we apply low, middle, high to? And we're going to do that in just a second here. Dave will get you ready on the metronome here. You're going to start with the low tempo first, somewhere between 90 and 110, okay? And then, but don't tell me, right? Because it needs to be blind. So that's speed, right? Then we'll do another one that's between like 120 and 130, and then another one that's between like 140, 150, right? So low, middle, high. And then for range too, you'll see here, we'll have some low range, middle range, high range tonguing. Dynamics, doing softer tonguing to more control, right? And then maybe what's something else you could apply low, middle, high to? Not what we're doing, not when we're doing it, but how we're doing it, right? So maybe style, low impact, high impact. Tongue really hard, marcato, tongue legato, so that you're well-rounded. Low, middle, high basically helps you be well-rounded. So let's go for it, metronome man. We'll stop there just to save time, okay? And if y'all brought your horns, y'all be playing right now. It's okay. All right, give me something in the middle range. But I just want to do a quick demonstration, and then we'll keep it going. So this is endurance-based because More notes. Yeah, it's not complicated. Okay, we'll go ahead and stop there again. I got a lot of material, so I want to just keep it moving. And then, of course, we go to the high range too. And then this one might be a little more speed based because there's less notes. Really, just want to keep this as simple as possible. Thank you. Appreciate it. And let's give our metronome guy a round of applause. Yeah, sure, I'll take it. Appreciate that. So that's just to give you a little preview as to what you could potentially do with your assignments for yourself, or more importantly, maybe for your students. Okay. Next, we have the finger coordination area. So this is getting a little more physical therapy. This is our objective number 2, and this is going to cover the forearms, which represent finger coordination. Okay. So, what are some actual things that you can work on? Various exercises. Well, there are several. The main idea is that you're moving. This one we can do a little bit of motion here. So you're either having you can either have it here or here, up or upside down, or facing towards palm facing the ground, or palm facing the ceiling. Either way, as long as it's in a controlled motion. And this is it. Everybody do this like you're riding a Harley. There you go. There you go. Put a little bit of weights on that. Make sure you're supported. Right. When you're working on a computer, make sure that you always have a flat way across. Don't sit at a desk and work at it. Yeah, you don't want this. And I actually have I'll put shorts, or I get an extra sheet when I sleep, so when I lay my hand, it doesn't, when I don't sleep like this, when I'm laying on my side, I actually have something to keep my arms straight. So this is all about talking about health in terms of keeping our parts in order. And so my girlfriend actually had to do forearm exercises. She played the Earl King with me. I played euphonium and trombone to represent the various characters and that leader. So she got it up to 144 or so, which is marked at 152 for piano, and that's ridiculous. But she went to the gym and did forearms specifically for that, and that helped her maintain not just the speed, but also the endurance, because she would do endurance exercises at the gym to get her forearms going, and so then she actually was able to play that really well in her recital. So here are some more things that we're going to do, because I like to make sure that we're participating and being involved here. So we're going to do 4 basic stretches with our hands. So we're going to pick this one first. This is the talk to the hand and stretch while you're at it, right? With your right hand, you're going to hold this for about 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. You can relax your shoulders while you're doing this. You can do some breathing if you like. Okay, now talk to this hand, and we do a little stretch too. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And this is a great exercise to do while you're driving, right? This is stretches at your forearm, okay? Now we're going to go down, yep. Yep, yeah. Just do it like this. I do this too when I'm stretching in the car also. And then when you finish, you can do a gentle circle, a gentle rotation, kind of ease out of it, okay? And we'll do the same thing on this one for a couple seconds. 2, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now let's just kind of relax a little bit here. This is so important. Every day I have wrist problems, so I do stretches and then my pain goes away. I do these stretches every day, especially if I'm driving long distances, sitting in an airplane, waiting for something to happen, waiting for my computer to load because it's really slow. Okay, now you see what I'm doing here? We're putting our hands together. Okay, I'll wait till everybody's going and I'll start counting. 5, you can switch your fingers. 2, see, spread. 3. Sorry, I was talking and counting. What number am I on? I'm just kidding. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, kind of gently do the circles, and then let's go the opposite direction towards. This is a little bit awkward at first, but you won't die from this. It'll be okay. This one is weird, this one takes practice, but it helps you stretch. If it hurts, obviously don't do it, but you can spread your fingers and do a bit more stretch. Yeah, and then do some circles. So if you're interested in more of those stretching and those breathing relaxation things, if you look at your handout in the back, there's yoga for all musicians. Actually, I got those exercises from a really awesome trombone teacher, Amelia Rosenberger. She did a class at Tyler Junior College, and she's worked with our low brass camp in the past. So that's a good one if you want to take some classes and get some advice for even stress management. You know, yoga is a great resource. So I think we need to do a lot of stretching if we're doing a lot of playing, if we're doing a lot of work on the computer. And then you see this massage gun here. Raise your hand if you own one of these. With the little, yeah, so raise your hand if you've massaged your forearms before. Okay, so if you ever have hand cramps, since you've got one, right here is the main muscle. Okay, one of my good friends, Mr. Donald Bruce, showed me, because he plays euphonium, he has some wrist things that happen all the time. And so he showed me that it really feels good to massage everywhere, especially like on the palm here. But the main place to massage with that massage gun is going to be right here on the top of your forearm. Okay, you can put a little marker and mark it for next time, right? Okay, all right. So that's what you can do to help relieve some of this pain if you have it, and then do these various hand stretches. So again, I think health is so important. And don't worry, I'm keeping an eye on my time because I want to make sure you have time to set up. Because next week, the roles are switched here. I'm after you. I'm at your mercy. You're at my mercy today. And but then it's like the turntables, right? All right, so what are the advantages of finger practice? Well, you can essentially double your practice time. And a lot of what we need to work out, really, this is kind of a distraction. We just need to get the rhythm of the fingers, because they're like little percussion instruments here. And then, of course, raise your hand if you've done the penny trick. I was so mad at my girlfriend because she did it. She didn't drop it one time. And I thought it was going to be torture for her. She was even playing the 4-valve, and even the pinky. She did the B-flat scale, and she didn't drop it once. What's wrong? Well, she just played piano and percussion. So. But raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about when I say the penny trick. Okay, so for those of you who don't, basically you take any coin, like a dime or a penny. This works better with euphoniums than it does with tubas. Essentially, you could, I guess, but it's more practical in euphonium. So you put a dime or a penny or a nickel underneath your fingers, and then you try to press the valves down without letting and I barely lifted my finger, it would have fallen. So it keeps your fingers really disciplined. And if you're really curious about that, you can ask me after, and I can give you a demonstration, and I'll drop as many pennies as you want, so you realize that it's not fun. So this stuff you don't necessarily need to write down or memorize. This is just to kind of get our brains working when we're thinking about technique. How do we build technique? Scales are basically jumps and steps. So scales, every scale you can think of, the chromatic gives you all the notes in order. Major scale is the foundation for everything, in my opinion. And arpeggios and NM means natural minor, HM means harmonic minor, MM is melodic minor, and then there's obviously tons of other types of scales. So I just want you to start get those wheels turning. What are all the scales that I could potentially do? And what are the arpeggios and jump-based patterns? If you get your jumps down, man, you can play by ear so much easier than if you only have scales down. And then, of course, there's so many different books and literature, but what's the most important thing about technique is time management, okay? Time management, okay? We want to make sure that you get right to the point, okay? Why would you work on the key of B flat if you have to play in the key of B major? You already know B flat really well, so you might as well stick to B major. If your solo is in B major, here's a great example of how to customize a warm-up. If you're playing more so symphonique, raise your hand if you know that famous trombone solo, right? Okay, so when my students play that solo, I say, okay, you need to learn the E flat minor scale, natural minor. You need to learn the G flat major scale. You need to learn the B flat major scale, at least 2 octaves, the F major scale, the D major scale. Right? Am I missing any? E flat scale, E flat major scale. Yes, thank you. And so once you get those patterns down, you're warming up to your solo, and you're playing all the same patterns and all the same keys. If you do long tones in the key of E flat, where like Remington is E flat instead of F, then you're centering the key with E flat and hearing the tonality of E flat with your drones, if you do drones, which is my favorite way to warm up. So we'll scoot it ahead a little bit more here. This is flexibility, where the top muscles are the biceps. There's 2 parts, and then the bottom is triceps. That's as complicated and as in-depth as we'll go. Remember that slow motion equals control. Slow motion equals control. So we're going to do some curls. Now this is an exercise we can all do together, and then I'll demonstrate while we do some visuals. So I want you to, now, disclaimer, I know some people use air direction, so let's not worry about air direction. Let's just think about bending the note up and bending the note down, right? So if you want to free buzz or just blow air, you're welcome to do that at this time. If you have your mouthpiece, now would be a great time to take out your mouthpiece. If you have it, ready. Everybody's got their, like, they got your pistols locked and loaded. All right. Okay, give you all a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to curl up and curl down. So we're going to use the visual representation of the motion of the bicep curl to work on bending the notes up and bending them down. Then we're going to apply it into an exercise. Okay, with me. So we're going to maybe do F. F is here probably. F, maybe, sure. Again. Now, can you all do the bicep curl and buzz on your mouthpiece? I know. You're going to be exhausted after this. Ready? All right, here we go. Together, everybody. Ready? Wonderful. Right. So when you do your slurs, when you're teaching slurs, that's a great way to get that. Barely moving my lips, maximizing the air. Small lips, big air. So then I made a duet exercise. If anybody wants to join me, you're welcome to, or you just have to wait till Saturday. So essentially, I'm just bending the notes up until they break. So that I'm in control all the time. If I am flat on a note, what direction do you think a slow motion slur will help? If I'm flat on a note, I want to do what kind of ascending, ascending slurs. If you're generally flat on, like, I'm flat on my A's, so I do a lot of ascending slow motion slurs to help me control that. What if you're really sharp? A lot of concert Fs are sharp on a lot of these instruments we play. So going down, or even using the embouchure of the B flat helps you set in the more accurate spot when it comes to pitch. Okay, remember, the same applies with tonguing, also with slurs, low, middle, high, not just with range, but also speed, right? The number on the metronome. Think about that like the weight. And also style. Maybe try doing soft slurs. They're much more difficult to control than loud slurs. Okay? So now let's take a different approach. This is your deltoid. This is the shoulder muscle, so this is another area, and this is something we'll talk about. This is high range. Again, I hope you notice the process here. You take a target. It's like, man, I'm listening to myself, right? Because we're comparing seeing somebody versus listening. So you listen to yourself and you realize, I need bigger shoulders. I need a bigger high range, okay? So what am I going to do about that? Well, I'm going to do some slow motion slurs. I should be pointing here. And I should do some scales going up, maybe some tunes, maybe some tonguing exercises like you saw earlier. What are some other things y'all do for high range? I'm just curious. Just want to know what y'all do for high range. They go beyond. I know I just gave you like some of the main things, but are there any particular things that y'all do that are kind of unique? Half out, okay, more resistance stuff, cool. And you can be a very specific category. Did I just cover everything with these topics? Does anybody do any singing? I feel like that helps me with my high range a lot too. I was trying to let you know that this is just 4 things. There's hundreds of things. There's many things you can do. And I want the wheels to keep turning. So you think, what can I do to improve my high range? So we're going to take a quick time out and go into some physical therapy here because we're talking about shoulders. And then we'll skip the playing part and go right into the posing and whatnot here. So I want to share a story with you all real quick. It'll I'm not getting that old yet, so my stories are fairly short these days. But I used to carry my gig bag and a backpack, and the backpack always went on my right shoulder. And I did that for about 8 years or so while I was at North Texas, and even before then. Always had the backpack on the right shoulder, always had the gig bag on both shoulders, okay? That's my euphonium. Then I started taking trombone lessons, and I had major issues going to 7th position. That first month, I did drills going from 2-7, 2-7, 1-7, 1-6. And I pulled something in my shoulder. And then I had to spend money seeing a chiropractor who then referred me to a massage therapist. So I had to get massage therapy done for my shoulder area. I don't know what was wrong with it at the time. I didn't know what part was hurting at the time. So I just paid money and somebody else fixed it for me, okay? Fast forward a few years, pain comes back in a similar way, but at this time I'm getting into this book and going to the gym a little bit more, and I just researched and figured out what muscle was hurting. And then I used the book and the exercises in the book to gradually increase weights and build strength on those muscles, physical therapy. And I just basically self-diagnosed myself. And I just made sure that the motions I was doing were controlled and didn't hurt. And about a month later, no pain. Really, really crazy. Figure out what's wrong with you, figure out what the part is, where's the part that's broken, or where's the part that needs to be fixed, and then strengthen it, right? A lot of times we break a bone, and then it heals, it needs to be moved around. We think, oh, well, it needs to heal, but then it's even something even worse happens, and then you have weak muscles. Other muscles are trying to compensate to do too much work when they don't need to. So that's a really good one. These are the deltas. Basically, if you lean over in front, doing this will do something for you, and then going forward. Those are things that can help if you have trombone-related pain when you're with your shoulders, which is I've had for many years. So I use the F attachment. I don't go to 7th position anymore. So, but anyway, there's an example of an exercise that you can all do. So high range slurs, again, the idea of maxing out and the idea of tricking your students into just doing it, and don't make it hard. Don't make it sound like it's difficult. It doesn't need to be. And it's not just the attitude we take, but also don't tell them how, okay, just do it again. Just go, and go up a half step, go up a half step. I think the idea of maxing out with our range can go, again, apply to, this is the military press, just another example of a shoulder exercise. There are many. And the idea is that, say you do this exercise, the G arpeggio, this is from the Remington warm-up. So I'm gonna do that first arpeggio right there, okay? Vibrato on to make it a little bigger, okay? So that was like 45 pounds, right? So then what do we do in the gym? The next thing we do is what? We add more weight. So we're gonna add 5 pounds. Right? Logic tells us to do what? I'm not gonna do it till you say it. Add 5 pounds. Add more weight. Add more weight. Right? Y'all get it, right? Right. So, to save time, I'll just kind of leave it at that. We're not going to scream a bunch of high notes. I'm not going to do it by myself. I'm only going to do it. Other people do it with me, right? I brought my mouthpiece too. I actually have a smaller mouthpiece I use to try to help my high range develop. Anyway, so let's just pretend like we all did a bunch of high notes. Then we would have faces that are kind of tired, right? So what do we do about that? Well, if you go to the gym and you run a lot or you work out a lot, you stretch, right? Well, our version of stretching is these kind of things. The warm down, if you do a warm down. Take care of your face. Just do some things that are relaxing. It doesn't have to be these specific things, but do something to relax your face after a lot of playing, okay? So let's switch gears and have y'all do a little bit more participation here. This is gonna be a fun part. I'm excited to talk about this here because we're gonna get into taking the show on the road. We do all this hard work on fundamentals for what? Just so we can play for the crickets in the practice room? And I mean like actual crickets. And raise your hand if you had a cricket in your practice room once. Right? I don't see as many roaches. I see a lot of crickets sometimes. Well, North Texas I did. So we want to play for more than just the crickets, right? We want to actually take our product and put it out there. A bodybuilder does the same thing in the gym. They work on their fundamentals, and as Arnold talks about in his book, he mentions that the early days of the bodybuilding competitions could be won with fundamentals. But as the field gets more competitive, and hopefully you're hearing, oh yeah, I hear that. I totally understand the idea of more competition and oversaturated market, right? Well, they have the same issues where now it's like not only do you have to have the right notes and right rhythms and everything down, but you also have the musicianship, which in the bodybuilding world is the posing, right? Doing the poses, and it's an art form in itself, visual art. So they're basically taking like some dance classes essentially. And that is how that's how they present their material, right? So it's kind of like, well, in the music world, it's again what, when, and how. Style is how. It's what makes one piece different from the other. This one's going to be aggressive, you tongue hard. This one's going to be relaxed, and you tongue softly. Many examples up there y'all can read. You can see it pretty clearly, right? Okay, awesome. And it's kind of far, but that's okay. So we're going to learn some literature today. So pretend like the first pose, the chest pose, is going to be like learning like Morceau Symphony. Okay, so maybe it's not that difficult, right? But you still have to learn the various moves, right? Then we have some of these others that are maybe more in the middle of the road solos, but then you might have one that's going to be a little more challenging, like the Kevin Day Concerto for euphonium. That might take some more complicated routines and whatnot. So they face the same challenges we do, all right? So everybody get comfortable. We can do it seated, right? So I'll be your guide here. So this is the first pose we're going to do, because after this presentation, I want us to come up on stage and do some poses. This camera's recording, and I'll do some screenshots of it and take some highlights. If you're like, I'm not doing that, then it's okay. But I think it'd be fun if we all, because we're going to learn 4 different poses. We'll put them up there, and you can flex. And we'll talk about something else in just a second. So everybody, let's figure out what side you want to showcase. You just showcase your right side, okay? So you're going to basically face this direction, all right? Then you're going to take your left arm, and you're going to put it in front, like so, right? And then you're going to take your right hand, left arm, point the palm of your hand towards the ceiling, right? Palm of your hand towards the ceiling, just like Arnold. And then grab your other hand, your other arm, there you go. And then showcase that side, right? Yeah, and then flex. Yes. Come on, let's do it. Come on. Okay, so that's the chest pose. There'll be pictures of it too. Yeah, we'll get you up here, man. It looks great, okay? All right, the next one we're gonna do, this one is probably something you've seen before. The biggest thing about this one is getting your wrist to go down a little bit. Please don't hurt yourself on my account. But all right, let's do a front double bicep here. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at you. Oh, you look great. Y'all look like you're ready to go. All right, next one, this is Jay Cutler, one of the Mr. Olympia. So this one, don't worry about putting your hand behind your back. So just turn to the side and then show off your tricep. Just turn to the side, and the tricep, yeah, it's like you're pulling a lever down, like you're pulling something down, okay? And this is a little horseshoe, right? That's what you want to have. Okay, great. And then our last pose is basically the same thing we did, but then you can turn around, right, and show off your back. So yeah. Go for it. All right. Yeah. Good. Okay, so now we'll finish off this area here. We're talking about practice versus performing, and this is the 2-minute drill. This can be a whole hour if we want, but I'm just give you just a couple points and move on. So when I think of practice, I think time travel is allowed, okay? Think time travel when you practice, right? Because you can start at the beginning, you can start at the end, you can start in the middle. If you mess up or something, or you want to do something again, you can rewind and go back in time and fix it. You can break things down, you can do whatever you want. You can go anywhere you want. But then when you perform something, it's like watching a movie, and you have to just press play, and then it goes, and there's a middle of it, there's a beginning, a middle, and then there's an end, and it's done, right? And you can't redo anything, you just have to go with it, right? So that is the same, in a sense, bodybuilders have to do that too. They have to learn routines, and they have to basically just be in the moment. You can't do the whatever bicep flex and then you didn't do it quite right. Well, let me just do it again. It doesn't work that way. You lose more points. So you have to keep going, and that's pretty much it. And of course, performing in itself is a skill. It's like maybe that tendon down there, you know, that's the weakness, right? The Achilles tendon, or maybe it's our calf muscles. So we'll do more calf raises to get better at performing. So calf raises would be like mock auditions and competitions, even sight reading for friends, or recording yourself, or playing for anybody, right? But the bigger ones are the ones that have events and implications behind them. So anyway, it's a skill, and some people are really good at this skill naturally, don't have to try. They're just naturally gifted at them. And other people like me have to practice, and you gain experience, and with the more experience you have, the more control you have over yourself, or at least you know that, oh, I'm gonna freak out this way, so I just say a funny joke, or like lick my ear or something, and then like do the thing. Dr. Bomi showed me that once. I don't know if it works or not, but if it distracts you from being nervous, then sure, why not? Or you can embrace the nerves, or whatever you want to do, but either way, it's gonna practice, and it'll get better over time. Okay, so now we're gonna wrap things up. I know, I'm right at the 10:50 mark, I'm sorry. I appreciate you being cool about it though. So we're gonna talk about motivation, diet, and some movement. So here's how we can apply this maybe to make some sort of positive change or improvement in our life. So it's much easier to be motivated when someone else has something for you to do. when you're being judged by somebody else's standards. It's much harder, for me personally, it's hard to be motivated just for the sake of being motivated, right? Because there's no reward, right? Our brains usually work on a reward system of some kind, or achievement, a system of some kind. So taking an audition, well, somebody else sets the audition date, right? There's already a weight requirement if it's military, so that already puts your schedule kind of in line for you. So that you don't have to figure out when I should start working. It's now, and it's as much as possible, and make sure I get enough rest so I don't overdo it, right? My motivation for fitness was going to the doctor and having high cholesterol, but not enough to get medication. So I was on the borderline. And that is what motivated me to change my habits. I lost 25 pounds and gained it all back. I hope that some of it is muscle. But I did change my triglyceride level. Basically, I try to reduce sugar. And then, of course, if you're dating somebody or you want to look better, or so, you know, some people are shallow, but that you might need to get past that part to get to the connection part, which you'll have more chances, but whatever. We'll just keep it going. My favorite quote here is this one. Pretend. If you're not motivated, then just pretend. I also love, you don't have to go fast, you just have to go. Or you can't run from all your problems, but if you do, it'll help you lose weight. So that's my actual favorite one. But I think the pretending part is great because think about these poses. Some people are like, I don't want to, we're all pretending. We're just having fun, right? I think that's, if you approach a lot of things that are challenging to you at the beginning, you just pretend like you know what you're doing. And then there's going to be people around you looking at you like, oh, he knows what he's doing. I'm just pretending. But anyway, here are some examples of things that are found in the back of your handout. So remember we talked about the yoga thing. That's the QR code. Tom Mahovsky is a friend of mine, euphonium player, and he did a great job helping me. I did a run of my presentation a couple of times, and he helped me give me some good changes to make. He's a personal trainer. He's a job form there. You can fill out and give some information to him, and he'll answer questions, do some Zoom sessions. Same thing with the yoga. That's all Zoom-based, unless you live in Dallas. So anybody can participate, okay? So let's talk about diet real quick, all right? So this looks kind of odd. Usually, where's all the wheats? Well, I just wanted to point out that this is kind of, when I'm at home, I do this diet. When I'm on the road, I just eat whatever and try not to eat it that much. So fruits at the top, natural sugars, healthy fats, organic meats, vegetables, water. That's great, sure, whatever. But what's more important? Practice, right? So this is just one interpretation. This is very, 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 very valuable. Meaning you can apply this to like just audition preparation. You can apply it to fundamentals or whatever. Some people need to practice. Some people need more water, right? Do you have any students that need to just drink more water? Right? And then as you get better, you know, at one point the foundation was for me sight reading because I wasn't good at it. So I did sight reading, and then that helped with all these other things. And yes, I did want to pair the vegetables and the metronome together on purpose. That was on purpose. But you might notice that maybe some other things in the future for you might get shifted around. And I put performing at the top there because we just don't do it as much as we practice, unless you're gigging all the time, and then your little pyramid might be different. So this is a very customizable thing. So I want to compare it now to practice. Again, when you practice, you want to make sure you're having good use of your time and you're putting in good time at the right time. Is the right time when you're tired? Is the right time when you're stressed and thinking about finals if you're a student? Is the right time, or maybe is the right time when you're fresh and you're in the moment, right? And you're going to be able to put a lot of energy and focus if your phone is on airplane mode, because we're all distracted, right? Y'all are doing a beautiful job of paying attention today too. Of course, you're not necessarily paying for this, so it's okay. You do whatever you want. All right, so now let's talk really briefly, go through this, talk about some benefits, and I'll get out of here and let our next gentleman here present, Mr. Drew. I'm sorry. So basically, all I want to talk about with diet is looking at it from a genetic standpoint and from an evolution standpoint, okay? Think about us where we were hundreds of years ago, right? And how long does it take biological beings to evolve to new surroundings, right? Millions of years, right? A lot of time. And in such a short span of time, we went from being outside running around and eating organic food and eating berries off of plants and things like that to doing what? Running around, being stationary, to consuming a ton of things that our bodies weren't designed to consume, So like, how many millions of years will it take for us to get to the point where we can actually, like, our bodies actually adapt to the lifestyles of being stationary, working in a computer or working a 9-to-5 job, right? So we have to do something to kind of counteract that. I think the biggest thing is just knowledge, and you do whatever you want. I am going to hate on sugar for just a second, but just because sugar is essentially legal poison, it makes us feel good, but it's also terrible and it creates all this bad side effects. So fat is good in small doses. So basically, my saying is fat keeps you full. Too much fat will make you fat. Too much sugar will make you fat, and that's basically it. So we want to kind of ration eat logically. When you're hungry, eat. But then sometimes we think we're hungry, but we're really thirsty. So I just try to listen to myself. If I ate a bunch of food last night, and actually David's not here, and he called me out for eating fries. But I went to the gym this morning, so the extra carbs from last night went to the gym. I totally get it in terms of this kind of stuff, but it's just like, all boils down to what you want, okay? And how to deal with hunger, right? That's something that if you can conquer that, then just like practice, you can practice these kind of things and make these decisions. There's some QR codes that you can scan to get some more resources. All right, so then the last thing is movement, manageable. So cleaning your house, organizing your stuff, dancing, just going out to the park, getting fresh air, all good stuff to do, even if it's just from a practical level. Going to the gym, cardio. The biggest thing about cardio is that 20 minutes is like your body's doing Remington, doing tongue exercises, slurs. After 20 minutes, then you're into optimal fat burning. So you want to maybe do your weightlifting first if you're going to lift weights, then do the cardio after. But you want to get your body kind of warmed up and the blood flow and everything going. And then of course the same thing applies with the exercise, the idea of slow motion, the idea of maxing out, the idea of speed versus endurance. And then of course with the movements, my last visual today could be, we can apply this low, middle, high. When you go to the gym, sometimes you just do the lower part of a bicep curl, the middle part, the upper part. Sometimes we just work on measures 1 through 4, right? Then we work on measures 5 through 8, and then 9 through 12. And then what do? 1 through 12, right? And that's the idea, okay? And then I'll just end with a couple of quick things, and gosh, I guess I'm gonna be going an hour. I'm really sorry. The biggest benefit to adding fitness and diet to your life and routine is obviously the mental benefits, getting the right endorphins, getting the right chemicals up here to avoid being on so much medication and to help people with anxiety and whatnot. So just want to do some quick thank yous. Thank you to Kayla Roth, my girlfriend. All the funny art was hers. If you want to take a picture of it, you're welcome to. Chris McGinty was my first workout partner, and he worked with me for a couple of years. Then Blake Birmingham was my workout partner for another couple of years. And because of them, I've been able to develop these habits. Tom Mahovsky, euphonium player, also gave me a lot of great help. And then of course I want to thank Arnold Schwarzenegger for writing the book. And do you have any questions?